Hello everyone! Are you looking to start your vegetable seeds indoors this year? If so, you found the right video. Today we're going to start part 1 of our mini-series on starting seeds from seed packets to planting the seeds out into your garden, so stay tuned. I'm Kyle from Mill Street Gardens, and we are a retail nursery in Clyde, New York. We sell outdoor plants, we sell house plants, we sell supplies, we sell gifts and more, and we believe in a garden for everyone. So no matter where you are in your gardening journey, we're here to help you. So in this part 1 of seed starting, we're going to talk about types of seeds to start indoors, because you shouldn't start all seeds indoors. We're going to talk about when to start seeds and how to read those seed packets. We're going to talk about the supplies you'll need for seed starting, and we're also going to talk about the sowing of the seeds and a couple different germination methods that you can use. So what type of seeds are we going to start indoors? Well, that's a good question because we don't want to start all of our seeds indoors. For example, it's a lot easier just to direct sow corn in your garden because it grows quickly and it doesn't like to be disturbed, and it'll take off once the soil temperatures are warmer. So we're going to be planting things that have a long maturity date that we want to get a jump start on this season. So just a few examples, this isn't comprehensive, would be tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, broccoli, cabbage, kale, or onions. All those vegetables take a long time to establish and produce. And some other things that are good to start indoors are the herbs. So basil, thyme, peppermint, oregano, lemongrass, mint. All those things are good things, good candidates to start inside, and they won't get too big or too leggy before you have a chance to put them outside. So the next question is, when do you start your seeds? And my number 1 tip and suggestion is don't start your seeds too early. The reason being is once you get your seeds to a certain size, they're going to be unhappy in the container that you had them in. So then you either have to bump them up in container size, and then things start to get more tricky. So you got to fertilize them more, you got to give them more light, and you just end up with these giant leggy plants. Whereas if you just waited a couple more weeks, you would have had a more manageable sized plant. So that's my number 1 tip. So we're going to look at some seed packets and see what they say and get some information off of them on when we should be starting our seeds.
Okay, so as we can see from the back of this seed packet, this is a pepper called Early Cal Wonder, and it has the botanic name. Then it has a description for us. It says this variety produces large, blocky bell peppers that can be harvested when green or later as they mature to red. So that's something that we didn't know before. If you want it to be red, you just leave them on the plant for longer. At both stages, flavor is sweet and mild, texture is crisp and crunchy. These sturdy plants are vigorous and prolific. Fruits are 3 and 4 lobed. Particularly desirable in areas with a short growing season, ready in about 70 days from transplant date, which is good to know. When you'll start to see your peppers served raw with dip in salad, and it tells you how to cook it. Served raw with dip in salads, fried or stuffed. Grows well in containers, which is also useful information. And then we get to the culture information. So culture in a horticulture world is, how to grow the plants. So it says sow seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost. So that is information that we really need to know to get our start date for our peppers. We'll get back to that. Grow in full sun and keep soil temperature in the mid-70s. Transplant to garden 2 to 3 weeks after last frost. Water regularly and fertilize when plants are 6 inches tall and again in midsummer. And then it has harvest information. Harvest carefully, cut the fruit from plants when full size, whether green or red, but before they begin to soften. Harvest regularly. The more that you harvest, the more that it'll produce. And then it also says nutrition, it's an excellent source of vitamin A and C. Down below it has some more information. So planting depth, 1/4 inch. So that's how when you sow it in your cell inside, you're going to do it 1/4 inch. Or if you direct sow outside, you'd also do it 1/4 inch. So seed spacing, the space between the seeds when you seed them, and obviously you'd thin those because I can't imagine you'd want your plants growing an inch away from each other. Spacing between rows, 20 to 24 inches. Days to germination, 10, so it gives you kind of general idea of how long it'll take the seeds to germinate or sprout from their seeds. Here we go. Spacing after thinning. So you don't want to leave them at 1 inch. It says spacing after thinning, 18 to 24 inches, and days to maturity, 70 days. So once the seed has germinated, they're telling you could expect some fruit within 70 days under best conditions. Okay, so now we're going to talk about finding our last frost date because that's going to inform us on when we're supposed to plant our seeds. So we're going to use our pepper seeds as an example for this. So all you got to do is go to Google and type in average last frost date by zip. And then it'll bring you to a bunch of different websites, and you can probably use almost any of them. But I'm going to click on this one and type in the zip code of Clyde, New York, which is 14433. And it pops up a nifty chart for us to use. So it gives us our last, we're going to go to the 32 degree day, and it gives us our percentile. So we have a 10% chance of a 32 degree night by May 14th. There's a 40% chance, for example, by May 8th, 60% on May 1st. So it depends how risky you want to be. You probably want to err on this side, especially since last season we had some pretty late frosts. But you never know. So it depends on how risky you want to be. So the seed packet said sow seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost and then plant them 2 to 3 weeks after the last frost. So you're going to pick a date that you want to go by. I usually go by mid-May as the last frost around here, central New York. So you're going to want to sow your seeds 8 to 10 weeks before May 14th. And then plant the seedlings, the little plants that grew from the seeds, 2 to 3 weeks after the last frost. And I think it lists that specifically on this pepper seed packet because I know peppers don't like cold temperatures and cold soil temperatures. So that's how you figure out when to start your seeds.
Now we're going to talk about some of the things that are useful when seed starting. Not all the things are necessary, but all the things that I'm about to show you are useful and what we use in the nursery when we're starting our seeds. So we're going to start from the bottom and talk about the bottom heat map first. So some seeds, especially the warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers, benefit from having the heat mat because the heat mat raises the temperature of the soil 10 to 20 degrees higher than the ambient room temperature. So if the room temperature is like 50 or 60 degrees, it'll bump it up to a temperature that's more optimal for germination. And one thing about the heat mat is the heat mat is only used for germination. So that's one thing you should know. So once the seeds germinate, make sure you pull the heat mat out from under the seeds. And also the heat mat is not necessary. So if you want to germinate tomato seeds, but you don't have a heat mat, you can still do it. it will just take longer for your seeds to germinate. And something else you can do is, if you want to have your soil temperature higher, you can physically move your tray to an area that's in your house that's more warm. For whatever reason, a lot of people say the refrigerator for some reason is warmer on top, so they germinate their seeds up there. So that's something else that you can do. Something else that I find helpful that we put right on top of the heat mat is our tray. And this is just a 10 by 20 tray that they call it. And this is just what you put your vessels in, and it protects your surfaces basically from getting wet. So inside the tray, you'll stick whatever you're starting your seeds in. So right here, I have a 72 count tray. So you can start 72 little plants in there if you like. That's a little intense for some people. That's what we use at the nursery because we're starting a lot of vegetable seeds. But on a home scale, you can use something like a leftover 4-pack or 6-pack, and then you can stick it in your tray, and that's what you'll use to start your seeds. Something else that you can do is, just like use, a piece of Tupperware. This is a leftover cooking container that we received some Christmas cookies in. And all you gotta do is drill some drainage holes for the water drains out. And that works perfectly fine because it's about, the same depth as these other planting vessels. So the roots will still have room to grow. And then you don't even need the tray to stick it in. You can stick this like on a plate or something so you're not getting your surfaces wet. So then also you'll need your seed starting mix. So here's my seed starting mix here. And one thing I do is I get it pre-moistened, and you can find seed starting mix at your garden center or most places that sell gardening supplies. And it's different than potting soil or soil that's outside because it's free from pathogens, so you won't have like that type of stuff attacking your seedlings, and it has no fertilizer in it because seedlings don't need fertilizer right away, and it's a lot looser, so the roots have more of a chance of doing their thing. And the final thing that is necessary for seed starting is some sort of humidity dome, which you place upon the seedlings. And whether you use this or you find a way to use saran wrap or a plastic bag or whatever, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that you're creating a humid environment for the seedlings to stay moist and germinate. And then just like the heat mat, once most of your seeds have germinated, then you pull this away because it's something that it doesn't need anymore. Another thing that we need is something to water the seedlings with. So when you first sow them, I recommend using like a water bottle or a sprayer. And the last thing that you'll need for your seedlings is, well, actually the second to last thing is fertilizer, which you won't need right away. And finally, some sort of, I'm pointing over here because that's where my grow light is, some sort of light. So whether it be a grow light or the sunlight, that's the last thing you'll need for seed starting. So the first method that we're going to use to germinate the seeds is the paper towel and baggie method. So the point of this is to get the seeds moist and warm so that they'll start sprouting. So what we're going to do is we're just going to moisten, this paper towel. You don't want to do it too much. And then we're gonna put some seeds in here. Now, you probably wanna put more seeds than you need just in case you don't get 100% germination rate. But I'm just gonna do 4 right now, just because I'm showing you guys the method. And this is just for experimentation because it's way too early for me to start my pepper seeds. So I fold the paper towel in half with the seeds inside. I'm gonna stick them inside here. And I'm gonna put the date on the seeds. So today is January 23rd. That is way too early. Bell peppers. And that kind of gives me a gauge to see, check back, like, oh, it's been a week. They haven't sprouted yet, weird. And then, maybe they start sprouting in 10 days. That way you kind of learn how long it takes for things to germinate. And something else I'm going to do is, after I close off the bag, is I'm going to plug in this heat mat and to get the heat going to help the bell peppers germinate quicker. Since these bell peppers are on a heat mat, I want to check the paper towel every couple of days just to make sure it's still moist and that it didn't dry out. And then once I start to see some sprouting, I will transfer those seedlings carefully into some seed starting mix, which I'll show you on this next method we're about to do. So just a reminder, this is the first method, and the next thing I'm about to show you is something completely different. All right, so now we're on to our next method, where we're just gonna put the seeds right into our starting mix. So something I've already done with our starting mix is I've pre-moistened it, which is a really important step in my opinion, because it's really hard to wet the seed starting mix because it's made out of peat. So if you put seeds into dry starting mix, then you'll have a hard time getting it to be wet. So a lot of times the soil will never even become wet enough because it repels the water. Or in the process of trying to make the soil moist enough, you wash the seeds away. So that wouldn't be good. So you just want the seed starting mix to be wet and feel almost cakey, but not sogging wet. And then you just want to lightly tamp down the soil. You don't want to go too crazy because you don't want to make it dense for the seeds. So all I'm going to do is just read the instructions on the seed packet. So again, we're doing pepper seeds, and it says to sow them 1/4 inch deep. So that means that it wants some soil on top of it after you sow it. So I'm just going to make little divots in the soil. You can put more than one seed per cell. You put, 2 in the same hole, or you can put one on this side and one on this side, just in case if one doesn't come up, you still have a plant in that cell. And I often do that. Sometimes if I'm doing like a 4-cell thing, I'll put 2 into the cells just in case. And then if one of the cells don't have one, then I'll just move one of the pepper plants later on. So I got these. No, I'll put 2 of them in these cells. And then we're going to cover them back up with soil. Things that require to be planted 1/4 inch deep usually don't need light to germinate because it's covered with soil, so I'm not really worried about the grow light yet. And then I'm just going to gently water it to settle the seed in. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with a humidity dome like this. And like I said, you can makeshift your own humidity dome. And then I'm going to put it also on a heat mat, like so, and plug it in. So then the soil temperature will start to rise, and then you'll start to see condensation on the humidity dome, so that way you'll know it's working. And then you'll just want to check these a couple times a day. I usually do it in the morning and at night. With the humidity dome, this thing stays pretty moist pretty consistently. But one thing that's really important is that the seeds don't dry out. So once a day or twice a day, take a look at it. When it dries out, the tops of the soil turns like a lighter brown, so you'll know. And then if it's dried out, you just give it a spritz. And kind of do that until you start to see green poking out. And that's we'll start in our next video. All right, so I just wanted to show everyone our grow light setup real quick. There's like a ton of different ways you can do this. This is what we chose to do because we start a lot of seeds. And as you can see, we actually have a lot of grow lights. So basically we have our shelving units, and then we just installed 2 LED light strips on here. And that seems to work out really well. And then once the seeds germinate, I use various methods to get the seedlings closer to the lights. So that's how we produce our lights for our seedlings. And actually these pepper seedlings don't even need light right now. So I can shut the lights off if I wanted to until they germinate. I just got them on their heat mats. Thank you everyone for watching part 1 of our seed starting series. The next video we're going to talk in depth about what we do once the seeds germinate. We'll talk about fertilizing the seedlings and potentially need to bump up seedlings if that becomes an issue for you. And something called the hardening off process, which is really important for seedlings in transitioning them from grow lights or your window to the garden. Anyways, if you stuck around and you enjoyed our video, make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you very much.